And so yet another installment into the hidden history of the African American warrior. 64 years before 1776, and of course the Declaration of Independence, there was another war. Somewhat referred to it as a slave revolt. The year was 1712. Listen very closely. You see, ladies and gentlemen, the African slave trade was alive and well, coming from Dakar, the door of no return there in Africa. And there was a significant number of enslaved there in what is now New York or Manhattan. Somewhere there, in total population, you had somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000 people, of whom approximately 1,000 of them were Africans enslaved. Well, that had all started way back when, well, maybe 50, 75 years ago. And there are those who came directly from Africa, and so therefore they were empowered with their own religion. And with that religion, they realized just how important freedom was, first and foremost, and secondly, just what it would have taken to free themselves. So it was on the night of April 6, 1712, that leaders of the African enslaved convinced others to declare war on the Christians. You heard me right. And what a war it was. They started it there in just south of Manhattan by lighting an outhouse. Upon that happening, between 23 and 50, maybe even 100 enslaved began to seek weapons and start burning houses. They were armed with guns and axes and knives. The enslaved fired upon the crowds of Caucasians who had gathered outside to see what was going on. Some of the people ran to the batteries. They had batteries during that time, basically to protect themselves from those they were trying to keep enslaved. You understand, folks, there's only one thing to force a man to be a slave, and that is the threat of death. So the Africans fired upon crowds of Caucasians, causing panic. Some of the people ran to the batteries, of course, and needless to say, one even sought the militia, and the militia did in fact respond. Upon seeing the armed soldiers, the rioting Africans then began to flee, and they went into the swamps in and around Manhattan. Soldiers sought them out, and there was a confrontation. 9 Caucasians, white Christians, were killed in the riot. 6 were wounded. Rather than wait for trial and certain incarceration, or worse, 6 of those who were rebelling and fighting for their freedom committed suicide. The Negroes, the Africans, rather than being killed or caught and being enslaved, would rather take their own lives. 6 of them did that. Of the approximate 40 enslaved brought to trial, 18 were acquitted. And a few others were even pardoned. The rest were brutally executed. 4 were burned alive. 1 was crushed by a wheel. 1 was kept in chains until he starved to death. A pregnant woman was kept alive until she gave birth, and then thereafter she was executed. And the others were hanged on this date. In response to the slave rebellion, strict codes were sent out, which included, but were not limited to, harsher punishments, obviously, for the enslavers, and you know the rest. Needless to say, this was not the United States at this time. This was the British, actually, performing most of this, but all of them were, in fact, Christians. There was more gunplay last night in Moss Point. And the mayor gave his dissertation, and I'm going to weigh in on it. But before I do that, I've got to go national on you. We have a president, ladies and gentlemen, who is mimicking Vladimir Putin and even Kim Jong-un. He suggested that he wanted to be like the president of France on Bastille Day. But trust me on this. This has more to do with the influences of Vladimir in Red Square. Reports are showing or indicating that our president, Donald John, wants to have a parade. He has now sought the Pentagon to come up with a parade. I don't know, down Pennsylvania Avenue. He wants to have a military parade, I guess, and have the tanks and the cruise missiles, men goose-stepping. The marching orders were, let me see who's surrounded by military highest-ranking officials, including Defense Secretary Jim Mattis and Joint Chiefs Chairman Joe Dunford. Trump's seemingly abstract desire for a parade was suddenly heard as a presidential directive. Quoting now, who is this? Military spokesman. The president wants marching. The marching orders were, I want a parade like the one in France. Like the one in France. Now, if you're an oxyconservative and you heard that from a Democrat, what would you think? I'm just curious. I want a parade like the one in France. Bastille Day. But it's not about France, actually, in my view. He said this before.
Well, this for the inauguration.
He most certainly did. He brought it up during the inauguration. Where are the missiles? Where are the tanks? Going down Pennsylvania Avenue.
And again for his first Independence Day. Let
me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this is theater for this guy. This is theater for this. This is not the sign of someone who is thinking like a statesman. This guy. Now look, whether you want to just say Rip is criticizing, this is going to be millions of dollars here, and you're going to draw our military personnel from wherever for a parade down in Washington? That's not what we do, Ro.
Why would we do that?
Just for the gratification of this guy.
Flex.
No, it's not even flex. It is to do what Jong-un does, and that is make sure everybody is walking in goose step. Everybody should stand for the national anthem, everybody should salute, and they should turn their heads and give Sieg Heil to him.
Oh, we're gonna acknowledge the dictatorship now.
Well, that's exactly what it is. Everything this guy is doing is about that. Don't you guys see this? Rip's not making this up. This guy's not doing what works for America. He's doing what works for him. This is, it is troubling. Then the guy yesterday comes forward to taunt Congress and say, I want to shut down the American government. Who does this? Now, and some of you guys who are easily impressed by what you think is being courage or what you think is being manly, you know who you are. You're the guys who, you're the guys who sit on the sidelines and talk about the guys who are actually playing the game. You know who you are. I don't criticize. You know who you are. So you've got a guy now who is saying to Congress, I want to, and you have it? You have it over there? I want to play it. Go ahead and play it.
Frankly, I'll go a step further. If we don't change the legislation, if we don't get rid of these loopholes where killers are allowed to come into our country and continue to kill gang members, and we're just talking about MS-13, there are many gang members that we don't even mention. If we don't change it, let's have a shutdown. We'll do a shutdown, and it's worth it for our country. I'd love to see a shutdown if we don't get this stuff taken care of.
You know why he wants a shutdown? For his wall. I mean, folks, and this is where I think Sherman and Democrats missed it. I guarantee you, even those individuals who were saying build a wall were only saying build a wall because Donald John was saying Mexico was going to pay for it. So now we're looking at between 25 and 35 billion. That's what this is all about. It's not about DACA. It's not even about immigration. It's about whether or not he can keep his promise. Well, part of it anyway. The part that says he built the wall and want to call it Trump wall. Right. The whole part about Mexico paying for it. I mean, even the Trumpettes try to come in and take over. Well, yeah, there's several ways for Mexico to pay for it. Just wait. You'll see.
You heard Vicente Fox?
These guys, there's nothing you can say. So now you've got a guy who is now saying, shut it down. Now, of course, I think there's a stopgap bill now meandering through Congress. I think it's already gone through the House. to fund the government that could shut down, actually run out of money, on Thursday. This is very real, folks, when I say run out of money. I do mean that now. You do understand America has bills, and if America doesn't pay those bills, it's out of money. In other words, there's funding. You raise the debt ceiling, basically, is what you do, and you borrow more money to pay for the deficit now that is growing leaps and bounds. Estimates by the GAO is somewhere around $1 trillion. Why? Because we've got a guy who wants to have a parade and build a wall. I'm not making this up. You can blame Rip Daniels for a lot of things, but this is my president here saying this. So he wants to shut it down. Let me tell you what I would do if I was in Congress, if I was in any kind of leadership. Pelosi doesn't have the binatas to do it, and certainly Sherman doesn't either. I say, okay.
You say okay?
I would say, all right. Because I want you to know the immigration, they've got between now and March 8th, 5th, or something like that to adhere to the ultimatum of one Donald John, or else DACA goes away and the Dreamers goes away. Okay, we're fine. This whole thing, when you read his book, you got to understand what his book says. And by the way, just thought you should know, just yesterday, the courts ruled that he could pay the $25 million. He has to pay the $25 million to settle the Trump University debacle. Where is it? A federal appeals court has upheld an agreement requiring President Donald John to pay $25 million to settle lawsuits over his now defunct Trump University. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals on Tuesday rejected an effort by one student to opt out of the deal and pursue her own lawsuit. So in other words, Donald John saying, look, let me just pay the $25 million. And she's saying, well, no, I need to get more. I've spent more than that. Why is it defunct? Because it was a con game.
Super fraud.
So now, you know, we've got this guy now who's saying, okay, let's shut it down. I would. I'd go, okay, well, the president said shut it down. Let's just do it. All right? Because the president wants to spend more of American taxpayer money on foolishness. Even the congressman along the Rio Grande, along the border, Texas congressman, New Mexico congressman, are all saying, what? Wow, huh? It's not worthy of that. $25 billion? We've already increased the number of border security. But he's got this under the guise of, what is it, MF-13 or whatever?
MS-13.
Folks, do you realize that most, this is not Rip Daniels saying it, just check with ICE, as have I, and you'll find out most of the illegals who are in this country come here legally but stay. They don't come across that border.
Like how the First Lady did.
I'm just saying. That's how this works. But this is all about him. And this whole parade thing and this whole shutdown thing, folks, you need to watch this very closely. And I'm going to tell you something. The mere fact that now he's not even in. Look, you have the majority. 99.9% of the House and Senate members voted for tougher sanctions against Russia. And this guy decides in his infinite wisdom, no. He's not instituting. Yet he's calling now for tougher sanctions against Jong-un. And don't get me wrong, it's fine, but he wants to do the Jong-un. I'm just so, it's just, it baffles me how the American taxpayer can go for this. I don't understand. I did not realize that they were so desperate. They, meaning those individuals who support this activity, so desperate for some kind of phony baloney fake champion that they would settle for it.
How stupid are the people of the country?
Of all the things you need now, parade? Certainly not a shutdown. I don't know. I'm going to go, okay, I'll do this. Let's go to 2 cents. 2 cents, good morning. How are you?
Wow.
So you for the parade, 2 cents? You ready for a parade?
So now you're calling Donald Trump a Nazi.
Well, he's just about it.
And our military.
I could tell you right now. Well, no. I'm calling Donald John. He's acting like Adolf Hitler. Yes. Do you object to it? Before I hang up on you, do you object to it? Answer the question. Do you want to spend millions of dollars on a parade down Pennsylvania Avenue that only he is asking for? Do you want it? Do you want to pay for it? Do you want to pay for it? You don't want to answer my question, see you. Talk to the hand. See that right there? That's a big one too. That's a fist. Talk to that. I'm sick of this. Answer the question. Oh, yeah, it's not a bad idea. Go call your other little pansy friends. This is real. This is my country here. We don't do that. Don't try to play like me, like, oh, yeah, well, I was just thinking. Here's 2 cents. I was just thinking, a parade would be very, very nice. This is this guy. This is the guy we have in who is manipulating people just like you. And you are confirming it. You really are. Really
I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible.
That's no joke. You're a prime example of it, 2 cents. And this bothers me. It does, because this is exactly what Adolf Hitler did. Exactly. He came up with these litmus tests for who were the true Germans. True Germans were going to go Sieg Heil. True Germans will stand up. And true Germans will... I'm telling you. The same kind of crap. Don't think lightly of this, 2 cents. You may not like hearing Rip Daniels say it. But all I want you to do is go back and read Mein Kampf. I'll tell you what you do. Just go up on any one of the history channels and put up the rise and fall of the Third Reich. And you will see what I'm telling you. This whole idea of undermining the authorities in Berlin, that happened. The whole idea of undermining the press in Berlin, that happened. Now, you can sit there and say whatever you want. There are people, good people, in the military and in the FBI who have grave concerns about what they're seeing now. Which brings me to Carter Page. Look, here's a guy, in his own words, saying that he was working with the Kremlin, with all the other little, I never met General John, no, I'm not doing anything. I want you to pull up, where is this, bro?
We should play both of these, actually.
Go ahead, play it.
You actually had been on the FBI's radar for working for Russia for several years. You were the target of a Russian recruitment effort back in 2013. The FBI interviewed you about that, correct?
I was a witness to a case that they were doing, so I was supporting the FBI in that case.
Right. You gave documents, though, to someone they believe they charged with espionage.
See, this is sort of spin, because I was teaching a course down Broadway.
Yes. The answer is yes. I gave documents. All right, cut that.
A couple of things.
That's what he did. He gave documents. Yeah, this kind of spin. Yeah, well, but you gave documents. You did. What was on the documents? Well, I don't know. The FBI knows. They're not saying. Pull up number 175 here. Pull that up, because this is Carter Page in his own words saying that he was an advisor to the Kremlin.
These are your words. I served as an informal advisor to the staff of the Kremlin. You're advising the Kremlin.
There was a lot of people advising. We were part of an informal group, and meeting in Geneva, Paris. We had a meeting in the New York Stock Exchange. The first meeting was in the New York Stock Exchange, the center of capitalism.
But right? You can understand how that would raise questions and could lead to probable cause. On the one hand, at one point you say you're an advisor to the Kremlin, then you're an advisor to Donald Trump.
Look, the probable cause, based on all the evidence that keeps dripping out and now has been further substantiated with the Friday, first memo, is that it was based on that dodgy dossier.
All right. Okay, you can cut that. Dodgy dossier. I've gone through the dossier, have it here, and I've gone through it. No one else is saying it's a dodgy dossier. The FBI's not saying that either. And actually, just about everything in it I've seen, with the exception of Donald John falling for the 5 prostitutes, that's not been confirmed as of yet. Has been confirmed. But you'll hear that same diatribe coming from Oxy Conservative Talk Radio, I guarantee you. Oh, yeah, well, the discredited dossier or the dodgy dossier. When the dossier it's part of evidence, and it's a lead. It is not unlike any other lead. But when you have a guy say that he was an advisor to the Kremlin, I don't care where it was, don't you know that merits some investigation? Really? So you got a guy who's driving a Jaguar, and he stops at a street corner, and another guy in a white tee reaches over and talks to him. He does this every other night, somewhere around 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Does that seem suspicious to you?
Just a little bit. Just a bit, based on the frequency and the time.
So do you think law enforcement should, at the very least, investigate by monitoring and checking and getting an idea, running the tag number on the Jaguar?
Well, absolutely. That's the security of that community at that point. That could be possible organized crime activity.
You got to understand, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't mean that anybody's indicted. It does mean, however, it's suspicious. What oxy-conservatives want you to be is not suspicious. What Donald John wants you to be is not suspicious. Look, I'm just an all-American boy. Look at me, I'm redhead. I'm okay. I'm an all-American boy. And I'm an American citizen, and you can't do this. Yes, we will do this. We will do this with Rip Daniels. I went to Tanzania. I think that's where wasn't it the first bombing, the terrorist attack by Al-Qaeda was in Tanzania? Out in front of the embassy? I think it was in Tanzania. I think it was. I wanted to see the American consulate there. I was curious as to whether it was in Arusha, but it's not. It's in the capital. No? Yes?
Yeah, back in '98.
Yeah, my recollection's pretty good. So now, do you think if by chance Rip Daniels was hanging out in and around the mosque there and going by the embassy, you think that that's not going to be a check? Of course it will be. And I would wonder what's wrong with my State Department or the CIA if they didn't. That's what they do. That's what they do. And then we have this. Donald John actually referring to the Democrats, I guess, the congressman as being treasonous. And I want you to know there is a member of the legislative Congressional Black Caucus who responded to him, and no one could have done it better. Go ahead and play it.
Jeffries or Trump?
Yeah, go ahead and do Jeffries, and then go ahead and do Trump, and then referring to it, which he said it was a joke, but it was bull.
Here we go.
Did anybody happen to see the State of the Union address? Right? Okay. So I got good marks. But I said you have the lowest black unemployment in the history of our country.
All right, how long is this? I wanted to get to the treasonous thing.
It was a game. You know, they play games.
You know, I don't want to go through all the other little phony baloney bullcrap he does to heighten his bigoted base.
Crazy, wild. They loved everything. They want to do something great for our country. And you have the other side, even on positive news, really positive news, like that, they were like death. And un-American.
Yeah, right.
Un-American. Somebody said treasonous. I mean,
all right,
yeah,
all right.
why not?
All right, leave it. Thank you. You know, folks, I'm so over this. The poor character here and those individuals who would even seek to try to fake it. You don't do a good job, 2 cents. I know you to be better than that. There's nothing wrong with supporting, but when you start siding with someone just because, that just makes your character. Call that into question. Trust me. But however, Congressman Jeffries responded to that treasonous remark like this.
I rise today to make it clear that treason is not a laughing matter. It is a serious crime embedded in the Constitution, punishable by death. But since your commander-in-chief chose to raise it at a political rally, let's have a discussion about treason. Is it treason for a presidential campaign to meet with a hostile foreign power to sell out our democracy and rig the election? Is it treason for a presidential campaign to meet with Russian spies who promised information that was negative about a political opponent and then failed to report that meeting to law enforcement officials? Is it treason for your former national security advisor to be a Russian asset sitting at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue doing the bidding of Vladimir Putin? How dare you lecture us about treason? This is not a dictatorship, it's a democracy, and we do not have to stand for a reality show host masquerading as President of the United States of
Gentleman's time
America.
has expired.
That's exactly it. I think you hit all the bases.
Definitely, in short order.
This is not political either for me, folks. This is really about my country. I have grave concerns now. I see this. You start adding these things up, and it becomes very, very telling. I want to go to Felicia if I can. Good morning, Miss Felicia. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well, Rip. How are you?
I'm doing excellently. Thank you for calling.
I just wanted to commend you for being so patient and still allowing the Trump supporters to express themselves. And I'm going to follow your rule, and I'm going to leave it at that. But I commend you.
Thank you.
For your patience.
Thank you.
But I did want to mention that we know that his supporters, those 32, 33%, you know, there's no reasoning, there's no rhyme. They are not going to change. But I'm appealing to the moderates and people that have sense, that 54% of women, the group of people that voted for him thinking he would change, you know, to get out and vote these people out of Congress and get rid of him, get some people in there that can
absolutely.
Get him out of office.
You get the bell. Very good. You're exactly right. Go ahead.
I listen to you every morning, and I want to call in sometimes, but I said I'm just not going to, keep talking about it because I want to encourage people to register to vote. I'm doing the same thing that you're doing. You know, my goal now is to get everybody and anybody I know who is not registered to vote, especially in our community, and provide transportation to the polls so that we can start cleaning out our state congressional leaders and especially the congressional people in Congress, because this man is putting the Republic at risk, and the GOP is spineless, and they are amoral at this stage, and they are not going to protect this country. They're not going to protect.
Amen to that. Amen to that. You're right on it, Miss Felicia. I appreciate that. But I would add one other caveat, and that's this. Not just register people to vote, organize. Really.
Yes.
Yeah, and it doesn't take many. It doesn't take much to do this. 2, 3, 4 people. Before you know it, you're having meetings. You're having meetings at churches or at halls or at houses, and you have a few drinks, and then come up with a strategy for get out the vote on election day.
Yes.
So it's not just registering, and that's what we're doing. We're not just going to be registering. We're organizing. We're going to see if we can, in every community around here, create organizations for the benefit of getting the vote out. And I hope you do the same.
I agree with you 100%, and I am with you, because
Thank you.
only, one thing, I like to tell millennials is that, you can make change. I mean, protests are good, the Facebook campaigns are good, but getting people into those groups and actually pulling down the lever.
Right.
Because you got to move people out of the way in order to change policy. And you have to vote people in that are going to benefit, like you always talk about, benefit your community, the lawyers, the judges, the constables, the sheriffs, all of those people that affect us day to day, and also people that create policy and get rid of bad policy.
That's correct.
And we are in desperate need. I have no words for this man. And, this parade, this was just like the icing on the cake for me. He is just completely mad and insane. And all of the people that are aiding and abetting him in Congress now, this is on them. They own this. And they are culpable in all of this that's going on.
Well said, Miss Felicia. Appreciate your calling. I really do. And I appreciate your support there in Jackson. By the way, I'm going to be in Jackson at the museum there very, very soon and broadcasting from our affiliate, WPBQ, there in Jackson. 94.3, I think. That's a mouthful. And look, folks, I'm not going to, it has nothing to do with complexion. It has more to do with I'm not going to ignore my own intelligence by sitting here and having some conversation with an individual who is ignoring all reason and common sense. You can't, there's no, look, when a person says, when a person does not believe their own ears, when they don't believe what they see, or ignores it, or then there's nothing. I mean, all you could do is just kind of look at them rather dumb and go, okay, thank you very much. Have a nice day. I mean, what do you say to that, Ro? And I know I've got rules here when it comes to dealing with gas, but it's like, come on, I'm not going to sit it. So do you want this or don't you? I mean, what is it? Oh, I can't believe it. You do understand that even our units have goose-stepping units now. Goose-stepping in the sense of marching, actually.
But this is...
Yeah, high steppers.
Yeah, but this is beyond that. This is more than ceremony here. This is not pomp and
This is what I want to see. Yeah, I want to be just like Jong-un, just like Vladimir Putin in Red Square. I want to be just like the France, Bastille Day.
I am a tin-pot strong man. Look, see, I'm strong.
Yeah,
I'm strong too. See?
Yeah, big us. Look
at my big missiles. Aren't they big? They're bigger than yours.
All right, I got to switch up here, folks. I listened attentively to the mayor of Moss Point. 2 more shootings last night. We're going to get an update from that with Ro. And what the mayor would like for the good folks there of his fair city to do is hashtag squash it. That's the best we can come up with. Hashtag squash it. Really, Mayor? Got some suggestions coming up. Also, we're going to be chatting with a woman who started a black gun club in Miami. Hang on, we'll be back.
It's about that time to get away. Make your reservations